Hey, good afternoon. Scott Luton, Greg White with you here on Supply Chain Now with a special guest. Greg, how you doing first?
Well, first, I'm doing well. Secondly, I'm doing well.
Well, we are going to dive right in today. We've got a special guest. This is going to be a unique live stream. We're kicking off a Twitter chat at 2 p.m., 10 minutes from now. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you exactly how to participate on that. In addition to Greg, we've got Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with Let's Talk Supply Chain and Ships on the live stream with us today. Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? I am super excited for this. I mean, listen, we've been doing this Super Trends series since when? We kicked it off, I think, in March. What was it,
Yes.
like March 15th?
That's right. And
Really?
you know, Greg made a great point yesterday I didn't really think about. We kicked off the planning back in January, if not December, before the world changed, right?
Right.
That's right. But our
So-
Super Trends.
And Sarah has been a great mother, keeping us on track, making sure you boys show up on time now.
Well,
No, we've had some fantastic topics.
We have.
It's been great collaborating. Now we're going to really interact. So here it comes, people.
all right. So we're getting a little bit of feedback already. Just throwing that out there. I'm not sure it could be my mic. It might be.
Oh, you mean microphone feedback?
Yes. Just
I
a little
thought you
bit.
meant people talking to us.
Not yet. Well, actually, you know what? We do. Hope White is already
There
tuned
she
in.
is.
Hi,
Hope White is tuned in via LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
Hope, looking forward to your feedback here. All right, so we gotta prep the audience here. So
Mhm.
first off, let's make sure they know some of the outstanding minds that are going to be part of the Twitter
Yes.
chat. So Sarah, I've got a list here, but I'm gonna give you the honors.
Oh, you are.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we've got a great set of panelists today for the Twitter chat. So we have Kathy Moreau Robertson. She is going to be joining us today. Irina Roska, Audrey Ross, Adam Robinson, Kelly Barner, and Jammin. Yeah. So it's a really, really great lineup of super amazing supply chain thought leaders and professionals and influencers in the space to really, hone in on the super trends we've been talking about for the last couple of months and really help us wrap this thing up. I mean, this is our wrap-up party, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's been a great journey, great series. It's been a pleasure to do it with you, Sarah. Hey, real quick, want to say hello to a few of the folks that popped in. Mark Preston is tuned in via LinkedIn. Mark is a manufacturing and lean guru, so we look forward to Mark chiming in there. We have Sylvia Judy tuned in via LinkedIn from Charleston, I believe.
I love her picture. What is that?
It looks like a automobile and a tractor trailer to me.
Nice.
And Sylvia talks a lot about HR leadership. I think she was on our last live stream, Sarah. So looking forward to her thoughts there. Hey, all right. So let's talk ground rules because we're kicking off this thing just about 7 minutes from now.
Yep.
First off, and Clay, if you can throw this up visually, if you can, because the Twitter chat is going to be taking place on Sarah's Let's Talk Supply Chain channel. And what is that profile, Sarah?
So it's Let's Talk S Chain. So, but the way people are really going to be able to find this chat is through the hashtag. The hashtag throughout this Twitter chat is really, really important. So make sure that you use the hashtag SCSuperTrends with an S at the end. And so whenever you're going to answer a question, you want to make sure that you put that hashtag at the end of an answer so that you can be put into the feed. And that's where everybody's going to feed off of each other. And we're going to really have a great dialogue.
So when I answer anonymously.
You can.
So, all right. So, real quick, because we got a few of the ground rules, but I want to say let these folks keep pouring in here. So we have got Richard Trey from yesterday, and Sarah, I believe y'all have connected as well. Richard and Automation Intelligence, great platform there. We've got Kyle Garcia from Portlandia on the other side of the country, on the West Coast. So Kyle, hope this finds you.
Whose horses are these? Sorry, you have to watch the show to know that.
That's right. And finally, I think we've got Valerie Holden, I think on LinkedIn as well. I don't see her message, but nevertheless, a lot of folks tuned in. Hopefully, ready to tweet, Sarah. So
Yes.
keep driving with the ground rules.
Yeah. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to be handling all the questions from here. And so as soon as 2 o'clock hits, I'm going to send out a welcome tweet so that you guys know who the panelists are and how to connect with them. And then we're going to start off with our first question. And so it's going to be Q1, and then when you're going to answer, you want to put A1 so that it corresponds with the question that we're asking. And then you want to put in your answer plus the hashtag. Now, if you run out of room, feel free to tweet as many times as you want so that you can get your full answer in. You want to participate with the panelists, so you can always tag them in your answer as well. You can comment directly on their tweets. There's so many ways that we can do this. And retweet, right? If you didn't want to answer, but you liked somebody else's answer, feel free to retweet their answer. And again, you want to search the hashtag SCSuperTrends and keep refreshing that page so that you stay on top of the latest tweets that are coming in for the hashtag and for the conversation. What is so funny?
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Sarah. Somebody just asked us about hair products. Frankly,
well, we
may be talking about you, Sarah.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Larry always says that I have an in-house makeup and hairstylist, which I do.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Soon.
No.
Agent first, and then hairstylist and makeup artist next, right? All right, real quick. Looks like it's being done for me. Jamin, of course, is ready to go. We're just 3 minutes away from a tweet fest. Let's show, and I'm not sure which of our quarterbacks is sharing the comments, but also want to show Patrick Kelly.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello, Patrick. Got a great
picture. Look at everybody's pictures. Everybody's getting so creative with those.
Absolutely. Let's see here. We've got Josh Labar, who is with an outstanding company, a forward-thinking, really energy company, Sonnen. But they also have some next generation batteries that are doing some big things out in the industry. So hello, Josh, great to see you. And Sylvia was, let's say, one sec before we get to Sylvia. Nerfad, what do you guys, this is who Greg was talking about. All right. So he's juggling, he says, with his bald head and wants something to help his hair grow like chia pets grow.
So for me, Greg. Okay, that was
no, that wasn't it. When anyone says chia pet, they definitely mean me. Yeah,
that is right. That is right.
If it's not short, it's like this. So, yeah.
Hello, Victor Garcia. Great to see you. I appreciate that feedback, both on the show and on the hair. And Larry, of course, we all know Larry he's a LinkedIn.
Do you have an in-house hairstylist? Every time I go live, I swear this guy asks me that.
Love it. Love it. Andy Hayes, he was referred by Clay Phillips, who is a fraternity brother from UGA with Dog there. How about that? He's listening and learning while working. Great to have you here on LinkedIn, Andy. And then finally, my former colleague, the one and only, the guy with the woo, which we'll have to explain later on down the road, Kevin Linehan. So, Kevin, hope this finds you well. Hope you and your family are doing well. Great to have you tuned in, at least for part of this via LinkedIn. Okay.
Hey, Scott, before we get ready, can you just give the listeners or the audience just some do's and don'ts? Because I think you ran into some issues the last time you tried.
Yes. Thank you for calling me out, Sarah. I did. No, kidding aside, the last tweet chat I was involved in, of course, I did my homework ahead of time on the questions, laid it out. And that way I was going to really make it easy to do some copy and pasting. Well, I wasn't paying attention to the order of the questions. And so I was pasting answers. They were asking me about baseball. I was posting about volleyball, that kind of stuff. So it can happen. And it did happen. And but so this is probably going to be more spontaneous because I don't think we have shared these questions with our audience. So we're going to be getting top of mind answers. And it is 1:59. So we're about to go, right?
We are almost ready to go. As soon as it hits 2 o'clock, I'm going to do that welcome tweet. It's all ready to go. I've got it all. Oh, look, it's 2 o'clock. We are going to welcome
you are going
everybody to the Twitter chat. We've just welcomed everybody to the Twitter chat, and I am going to get our first question lined up as we get everybody into the Twitter chat. So we have already had some great commentary here. Adam Robinson said, I read Super Trends as Super Friends, but same difference with this amazing crew. Well done, Adam Robinson. That is so true. So true. So I think the first question, what are we talking about to begin with? We are talking about, I think we're talking about our first super trend. Yeah, super trend number 1. We actually, we talked about sustainability in that first conversation, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. and the term cringeworthy came up during that as well. So, right? I mean, I think one of our questions was, why is sustainability a cringeworthy term, or when is it? And I think the essence of what we discussed was if it's just lip service, right? That's when it becomes a mite cringeworthy.
So we are on question 1. We're asking folks what sustainability means for them, right? To them.
Yeah. So the first question is, what does sustainability mean to you? So again, if you're going to tweet, make sure you use the hashtag SCSuperTrends. I'm just about to tweet that out, and let's see what everybody is going to say about this question here. I mean, what does sustainability mean to you, Greg?
Well, I mean, well, boy, we talked about this, how this impacts, how circular is more the theme, is more the process, and sustainability is more the goal, right? Yeah. And to me, it means a supply chain that is thought through from end to end, or in circular fashion. Where do products begin? Where do they end? How do we manage for reuse, recycle, refresh, right? Any of those re's that can put these things back in play. And actually, we've talked about a lot of this. We just talked to somebody today for a podcast for our Logistics with Purpose, and they call, what is it, WeBuyRags.com.
That's right.
Right? And they buy clothing and repurpose it to other countries, used clothing or what would otherwise be shredded and offcast.
Yeah.
Like T-shirts that say San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl 54 champions. Those are all being repurposed.
Well, so kidding aside, sustainability, we're thinking about this earlier, and I think it came up in the show, and stand by, this is going to be cliche city, but really it is the new normal. Sustainability and the importance of sustainability is the new normal. And one of the biggest reasons that's inarguable is that consumers demand it more than ever before. So it's got that bottom line appeal that's going to make it a priority. So even if you're a supply chain leader or a business leader, and you don't necessarily get some of the feel good and the good vibe part of why we need to be doing this, for our environment and other parts, it's all about the bottom line, because consumers, they're going to be voting with their wallet. Yep. And if your company is not getting beyond the lip service part of sustainability and helping fuel the circular economy, you're going to lose market share.
Yeah. So we've got an answer right here from Jamin. He says, an intentional process and supply chain. For that strategy to be sustainable and powerful, though, I find even down to marketing and sales efforts must tell a compelling story. Really meeting of sales and marketing through supply chain. Totally great point. Really, really agree with that, because I think, sustainability, if we're going to look at this and we're going to look at this as a strategy moving forward, everybody needs to collaborate on it, from supply chain to sales, to marketing, to customer experience, to sourcing. It's really got to be a collaborative effort. And I don't think we're really going to be able to get to the essence of it without that. And I know I talk about collaboration way too much, but in this instance, I think we're right.
Well, I mean, your supply chain is now not just a back office function. It is the primary representation of your brand, because it's why your stores are full. It's how you enunciate not just sustainability, but fair trade and fair practice and those sorts of things. And it's now in the forefront of people's minds. And they're going to start gauging brands and their decision to do business with brands on how they perceive that supply chain. And,
Yep.
Sustainability is most effectively impacted by supply chain.
Yeah. So Kelly just weighed in, buyer's meeting point. Sustainability goes beyond green to create long-term business strategies rooted in big picture thought.
Yep.
Really, really, I would totally agree with that. What do you guys think? And just a note for everybody, when you are searching the hashtag SCSuperTrends, make sure that you're in latest, not top. Because if you're in latest, you're going to be able to get everybody's answers as they come in.
Ah, that's a great tip. I didn't know we were getting Twitter tips too.
He's a Twitter pro.
I love it. Hey,
Yeah.
real quick, before we get anyone's response on Kelly's, so Benjamin Goldklang, the trivia top 5 champion of the world.
Just back from a run.
That's right. He was asking about if he doesn't have Twitter, can he respond to these questions in the chat? Absolutely. You know, we don't turn down perspective. Okay. So the question on the table before we get to question number 2, Sarah, is basically just getting response to Jamin's and Kelly's insights thus far, right?
Yeah, well, we've got more actually. So Irina piped in and said, sustainability is the ability to fully utilize all resources within the supply chain with the least amount of impact and ensuring an end-to-end view of product is accounted for. Yes, yes, and more yes. And then we've got another one here from Mike Bush, and he's from Next Trucking, I believe. Intentional actions that reduce harmful effects across the supply chain, such as greenhouse emissions, pollution, and waste. That is so true. I mean, I was talking to somebody on LinkedIn the other day about this, and what the COVID-19 crisis has really done for us from an environmental perspective. Somebody was saying that, you know, just even hearing the birds chirping because they can hear each other better because there's less sound pollution. So
hey, real quick, I love the supply chain nerd out, I think is what Mike calls it, that Mike Bush has been hosting. He kind of put it on pause as we fight through some of these things that we're all getting through. But what a neat concept. And I think he was doing it once a week. So keep up the great work, Mike, and thanks for tuning in here today. Okay, Sarah, how much time do we want to give? I know we're trying to get through 10 questions, or how do we want to manage that?
Yeah, I think we've got Adam Robinson, and then I'm going to ask the next question.
Cool.
So Adam Robinson says, being conscious of renewability of resources, primarily in relation to emissions and the environment. And then he continues to say sustainability by reducing paper. Are you calling me out, Adam? Because I wrote on my post yesterday that I do use pen and paper.
I think he is
working on it. I am working on it. Okay. I am definitely working on it.
Well, good stuff there from Adam. And of course, Adam he's a great supply chain guru to follow on Twitter. I don't think he gets any sleep at night. He churns out content nonstop. I think he just recently was published in Freight Waves, if I'm not mistaken. So a great person to know across social media for that matter.
Awesome. We've got so many people still weighing in on the first question, but I think what we'll do is go on to the next one because we do have a lot to get through. So question number 2, what actions would you like to see more companies take in sustainability? This is a big one, right? Scott, earlier you talked about, the effect on people's wallets,
That's right.
Whether they will actually pay for the sustainability option. I know that I put out an article the other day about Adidas collaborating with Allbirds on a sustainable product and, bringing that circularity into their supply chain because they're going to be able to reuse products that have previously been purchased. So what do you guys think about this one?
So I'll start here, Greg. I think some really cool things are being done in a sustainable means. I mean, IKEA, I had no idea that they're using plastic bound for ocean to make their very popular furniture with that. Maybe I'm the last person on the planet to know that. However, I think the challenge with sustainability and true circularity is that as these reactive measures are popular and they work, it keeps companies from moving upstream and figuring out how to prevent the waste from happening in the first place. So that's one of the things that I know all of us collectively are looking forward to driving things upstream so that we can really bake in more of that of a true circular economy into the model.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's design and engineering is number
Yes.
one for me, is right. In fact, I did a talk with a professional engineering group here in the Southeast, and that was one of the things that we implored them to do, was to help designers and to think about end of life and afterlife when designing and engineering products. And you know, what that really means is thinking about the supply chain as starting earlier than most people think about it, because products are often designed in coordination with merchandising people, with the buyers and merchants and merchandise managers, whatever that title might be. That means we have to get them engaged in the supply chain. And I think the other thing that we have to do, and everyone, there are so many people here that know that I promote this all the time, we have to constantly remember that the consumer is the beginning and the end of the supply chain, and we have to get them engaged in caring and actually voting with their wallets, because even though some more people are doing it than ever before, more consumers are voting with their wallets than ever before, it's a very, very small portion of those who say they will. So
totally
and
agree.
you know, we talked about this in one of the episodes. It comes down to economics. People will pay something more for sustainability, but they won't pay a lot more. So we have to find that balance. We have to embed sustainability into the process, and we have to create efficiencies and economies of scale in creating and maintaining sustainability so that it's affordable to continue.
Yeah. So Jammin weighed in on question number 2. Companies, not necessarily the manufacturing, making sustainability cool and part of their culture, i.e. bring own mugs, less paper use, carpool, bike, etc. Encourage and reward small, consistent actions. This is actually going to go into our question number 3, because we talked about in this first episode that we did, start where you can influence. And that's a really, really good point, Jammin, because, you know, it's also the little things. I mean, we talk about manufacturing being one of the biggest components of carbon footprint. And manufacturing is a really big piece to the sustainability concept. But it's going to take us a little while to, I think, really be able to make a dent in what manufacturing brings to the concept of sustainability. So I also really like the idea of just starting where you can influence. And we're going to talk about that in question number 3 as well.
Hey, can I recognize a few of the folks that have weighed in on our comments here? Starting with Sylvia. Sylvia talks about we need to change and update regulatory policies that are outdated. That's a great point there. Benjamin talks about funding research in different areas to fuel behavior and of course, research innovation in areas that may be underfunded. I love that point. Umit is checking in from Turkey. Love to have you on these live streams as always, Umit. And finally, Kyle on the West Coast from Portlandia, as he said. Side note from an Adidas ex-employee. They started an amazing sustainability effort with Parley to utilize recycled plastics from the ocean. Analysis on it showed that some people will pay more, but we need more people to be willing to pay more to continue those behaviors. So good stuff there.
Yeah. So a couple more weighed in. Audrey Ross, there are 2 opportunities here. 1, how can you design your products in a fully circular way? 2, how can you use waste and reuse it? Stop expecting the customer to force you to change. Stop making it a cost issue. It isn't anymore. So she brings up a good point, because I was on a panel about a month ago with Audrey actually talking about fashion, and I think we were talking more about beauty, but it was less about recycling and more about reusing, right? I think sometimes we get those 2 interchanged, and recycling is okay, but reusability is really the ultimate goal here.
Great point.
Yeah. Agreed. I think if you can repurpose or reuse something, that's a lot better than the process that's required to recycle it. We lose so much in the process of recycling. I've got a big dumpster that I roll out to the corner every Monday, and I know that not everything is getting recycled properly when that happens, but it's what I can do, right?
Yeah. Mike weighed in. Data sharing can drive sustainability initiatives. Truck drivers should never need to drive empty miles. Yes. Also, companies have to commit and remain committed. GM and Chrysler backed out of their agreement for mileage. Interesting.
That is interesting. Hey, real quick, and if we can pull that Mike's point off real quick, because we can't do a live stream without recognizing Professor.
Hey.
That's right, AA from the air capital of the world. So I hope this finds you well. He says real quick, sustainability strategy actions that enable supply chain to keep on giving while minimizing the cost to the earth and its environment. Good stuff as always.
Amen and go Shocks.
There we go.
That's awesome. We've got a couple of more. Adam Robinson actually just also weighed in. Take a stand. 1, understand your carbon footprint. 2, develop strategies to execute investments, initiatives, and align real resources to support it, not just have it be marketing speak. This is what we talked about.
Right.
Yay, right? It's cringeworthy, right? Is it cringeworthy? Are we talking about it too much? Is it just lip service?
Right.
What are we doing?
Yeah. It's all about action. I mean, and you know what? Take, Greg, you were just talking about, rolling your trash cans out. Even if it's not the perfect action, move forward, right?
Yeah.
Move forward. You get momentum. It uncovers other opportunities. Take what action you can. And you know what, for that matter, even if it's painful or uncomfortable, usually that's the right action to be taken.
Yeah. And John, I was just about to bring this one up. Thanks, Clay. On top of it, he's saying that everybody needs to publish their initiatives, encourage others to do so. Yes, support everybody in these initiatives. We're not going to do this alone. We've got to do it together. And the only way we're going to do that is through those type of initiatives. So thank you for that, John. Now I'm going to go to question number 3. And this is a great discussion so far. So question number 3, out of the 17 UN sustainable development goals, where do you think you can influence and how would you get started? This goes back to what Jamin says on Twitter, because obviously he was talking about little ways that companies can get started. So we're kind of wondering, where can you get started from a personal and a professional standpoint? So that question has just gone out to everybody in the Twitter world, and we can't wait to hear from you.
That's right.
Yeah, and you don't have to know all 17 of the
Yes,
UN's goals.
I mean, come on.
There will be a quiz.
But
Well, hey,
go ahead, Sarah. Sarah is actually going to list them for you. So,
well,
I
hey,
don't know them.
well, so when I was checking them out earlier, because I wasn't familiar with all 17, but the number 17 is all about partnership for the goals. And when I think about at least what Supply Chain Now is doing, we can play in a variety of those 17 goals, but really at the bottom, it kind of ties everything together. And how can we give each of those areas a spotlight and some air cover or some visibility? I mean, that's so important. Going back to John Baglino's point about sharing and recognizing the progress we're making in these critical areas.
Yeah, and just starting where you can influence, right? So we've got poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water, affordable and clean energy, decent work, and economic. I can't even say it right now. Are we live right now?
Okay, we'll edit that.
Totally a blooper.
Oh, wait.
Anyways, industry, innovation, infrastructure, reduced inequalities, responsible consumption and production, which is what we're talking about as far as manufacturing, sustainable cities and communities, climate action, life below water, which is a huge, huge one, peace, justice, and strong institutions, life on land, partnership for goals. And if one of you could please say the one that I missed, that would be great.
Yeah.
Could we? Yeah, no. I think start with where you can influence is the primary one that people need to think about, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, if everyone takes some action or even a similar action or an action that causes us to reach a threshold, then that wave creates a responsive activity. Like if more people do send recycling to their landfill recycling facility, then that facility will have to respond at some point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great point. Hey, real quick, Corinne Bursa is tuned in via LinkedIn. big fans of the one and only Corinne Bursa, and she says she agrees with Greg. Many people will buy a recycled product once, but it must be of quality to be purchased over and over again. That's such a great point. And, that belies the point that our friends made earlier this week on the AME podcast where price, and I cannot remember, John, I believe it was, John said, hey, consumers, John Bartow, consumers want to know they're going to get it, and it's going to be what they expect, and it's going to be when they expect it. And if you can do both of those things, many consumers are willing to kind of look past price to some degree. And that's a great point, especially as we revisit a lot of these sourcing decisions.
Yeah. And just to Kelly's point here, start, like we said, start where you can influence. And she's saying that most companies can influence when it comes to investing in people. And it's a really, really good point. You can make an impact in health, skills, education, and collaboration. So
Sylvia is offering up, she buys Homestead Creamery milk, which has a perfect reusable supply chain. So check them out. And you know what? Corinne uses, her husband loves their chocolate milk. Look at these connections. The world is so small. And then Sylvia offers up the URL. Why not?
Yeah.
Homestead Creamery.
Way to go, ladies.
.com. And that reminds me of one of these episodes where we stumbled across a list of 50 small businesses that were baking sustainability in. Love that story, because regardless of how large or small your enterprise is, take steps forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about it, right? Talk about what each of us are doing. And that's what John said. So Jamin, he's been focused on his mental health and well-being, both how he can best manage his own and encourage those around him as well. And I think that I applaud you, Jamin, because that's not always an easy thing to do, but being honest and authentic about it is really going to get people on the bandwagon and having us all have authentic conversations that we need to have, especially right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Authenticity. I mean, it's always been valued, but gosh, it seems like that's going to be one of the huge takeaways from 2020.
Yeah. So Audrey Ross says, decent work and economic growth. Thank you, Audrey. You really wanted to hear me say that again, didn't you? She's always got my back. Sustainability is not only what you are producing or providing and the circular supply chain, including how you are interacting with your employees. If you're not paying good wages and keeping employees safe, do better. Yes. Love that one. I mean, honestly, it's how we can all sort of take care of each other. And it goes back to Jamin's point as well.
Yep.
So now I got to get on to question 4, I think. Oh, we've got a couple more that's come in. Irina Roska, as a manager, I can absolutely impact gender equality. I also hope that all supply chain professionals see responsible consumption and production as part of our mandate to address. Great point. Because if we're all not looking at that as supply chain professionals, I mean, that really is a place for us as supply chain professionals to get started, don't you think?
Yep.
No doubt.
Yep. Okay. So question number 4, it is coming out right now. I'm literally typing it as we speak.
That's okay.
So, before I tweet it out, I will read it to you. What is the biggest barrier to entry when it comes to moving from end-to-end supply chain into circular supply chain? That's a really big one. Remember, we had that conversation because a lot of people have put in a lot of investment for end-to-end supply chain. So, moving to circular is going to cost more money.
Yes. It absolutely will. It goes back, and by the way, Nerfad wants to know what sustainable paper products you're using to write your sustainable notes sustainably. That's good. I love that.
He's calling us out on everything, right? Hair products, pen and paper. Thanks so much.
This is an electronic notepad. They are available. They aren't cheap.
Nezha, good evening. Hope this finds you well wherever you're tuned in from via LinkedIn. Well, going back, it's always looking back. The barrier, one of the barriers to bringing from moving from end-to-end supply chain to circular supply chain is if it's working, if our reactive measures are working. Again, they're going to have deeper roots. It's going to be harder and more resistance to change. And, you know, as Greg mentioned, we got to move it upstream. That is such a big key to avoid a lot of the things that zap our bandwidth and resources and team energy and you name it, to figure out how to deal with. So we got to get it upstream and make it not happen in the first place.
Well, and this episode kind of happened before COVID happened.
Right.
And I think right now, you know, leaders are dealing with a lot of change. They're dealing with a lot of different things that they have to put into motion as well. And while it is important and it's on the agenda, it's going to be interesting to see where it falls, I think.
Yep. Agreed.
Well, I got to tell you, I think having seen the light at the end of the tunnel, I mean, I don't know if this is still true, but there was a point at which we had closed the hole in the ozone layer, right? So seeing the impact that we can have in such proximate terms has to move that up the list for people. And the truth is, to move into this circular mindset, to me, the biggest barrier is just perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about circular as the goal rather than circular as a project. You have to, as we talked about earlier, you have to start at the beginning with design and with engineering and all the way through to whatever it is, reuse, recycle, repurpose, right?
So this one from Adam Robinson, and just so everybody knows, we are trying to get to everybody on Twitter. There's a lot of activity happening, and we are definitely trying to get to everybody that we can. We won't be able to get to everybody on every single question, but again, if you're following the hashtag, you're going to be able to get in and see everybody's amazing answers to the questions. So Adam Robinson, find the right resources to invest in. There's a lot of confusion in the way of tech, which is right. It's also tough to find right talent. Well, right now, talent's being shaken up, and we're going to talk about that in the next couple of questions, right? Mm-hmm. Increasingly, technology will enable the circular supply chain, but important to vet the right ones as partners. Great point.
Yep.
Great point.
I don't know about you, but I've got about 17 screens. And I'm trying to figure out what I need to be paying attention to.
Can anyone see the glassy look in my eyes? I'm kind of.
Right, but hey, thus is the Twitter chat while live streaming. I mean, yes. We're all a bit overstimulated. I don't know.
This is truly my very first Twitter chat, and this is a lot coming at you at once, right?
And you don't even have to really ask the questions.
All I have to do is sit here, but it's very.
Oh, man. Scott, you want to take this one?
Yeah, you guys are much better multitaskers than I am.
This from Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh Labar from Sonnen talks about making this move means to changing the hearts of minds of all members in supply chain. That means creating value propositions for all members that will create profit from the additional effort to drive circular supply chain. That is almost as good as both interviews he has had with us. Josh is always well spoken, but it is so important because the WIFM is a cliche for a reason. You know, what's in it for me? You know, you got to figure out that individual, that unique value proposition based on what function and what role, and most importantly, perhaps, is what's the motivating factor. For some, it is compensation. For others, it's recognition. For others, it's flexibility or what have you.
Yeah, and Audrey makes a really good point. Yes, Clay, you and I are on the same wavelengths, man. Complacency. I mean, that's a huge one, right? Are we doing something about it or are we not? Are we just sitting on our hands and talking about it? Like we said, lip service. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Many are. And it's not just relegated to this topic. It's related to anything that leadership deals with. There's a ton of lip service out there. As Adam mentioned earlier, that marketing speak, to me, that is lip service. That's what it is, right? It's meant to sell or get someone's attention or what have you. It gets, as we all know, when it comes to action, that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's what separates those that get it done versus those that just talk about it.
There you go. Perspective, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Greg, do you want to take this one?
I feel like I've pounded this poor one to death, but anytime Jamin speaks, I'm ready to say at least go Chiefs, and great perspective. No, really great perspective. And really it goes back to some of what you were just talking about there. We have to figure out what it is that ignites someone's mindset, ignites or enlightens their perspective and motivates them to actually do something about it.
Yep.
Right. That's
agreed.
That is the task of leadership in these initiatives, is first to ignite yourself and then to ignite the team.
And it's a great segue into our next question. I mean, it's like he got these questions ahead of time or something.
What?
I don't know. So the next question number 5, circular changes waste into opportunity. What examples have you seen of companies embracing this new mindset? Yes, bring us all of these examples. We want to know. I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing, you know, some articles like I was mentioning with the Adidas and the Allbirds, but I'm sure that there are Nerf ad. Always got to get that in there, right, Greg?
Yeah. Well, we're all desperate for football. Right?
To our listeners, real quick, Nerfod said "Go Saints," and we all know Greg is a huge Chiefs fan. So just a little poke there. Anyway, of course, the Chiefs are the reigning world champs. So
we'll see them. We'll see them next February.
So we posed a question here, but before we get to that, Audrey said this chat is lit. Yeah, I'm listening to the commentary from Supply Chain Now and Let's Talk Supply Chain while getting all these wicked good answers from my peers. Loving it in capital letters. I mean, we just need to give a moment to that one.
Audrey's from Boston, huh? Wicked good.
She's a fellow Canadian, okay? If she
okay.
You can hear her outs and abouts. I mean, I'm gonna put that out there. So, what examples of companies? You guys have got some good examples. You've been doing your series on doing good in supply chain, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And so here's a few that we grabbed from the headlines. Timberland is taking old tires and turning them into shoes. I love that. Johnson Controls is recycling batteries and figuring out new ways of repurposing that. We all know that if you're a traditional battery, not like the Sonnen batteries, Josh, you'll love that. That's a huge landfill problem. This was a new one for me. A company named Aquazone, which evidently is a Finnish company, they are turning wastewater into fertilizer. So a lot of good stuff there. So those are 3 that stuck out to me, Greg.
There are probably a lot of people out there that know what I'm about to say. Gooder.co, Jasmine Crow and her team taking food that is cast off or left over from restaurants or institutional meals or grocery stores and funneling that to people in need. So it's not only a sustainability, but it hits 2 or 3 of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals by getting people food that need it from people that aren't using it. 40% of the food in restaurants goes to waste. And as Jasmine herself said, hunger is not a supply problem. It's a logistics problem. We just have to get the food to the people who need it. So I'm a huge fan of what Gooder is doing and how they're partnering with restaurants and distribution and other organizations to make sure that people get fed. So, I mean, what could be more circular? What could be more sustainable than not only sustaining the goods, but sustaining people with those goods?
Yeah. So Audrey just weighed in here and said, what we forget too is we made investments. Oh, this was for the last question, but she was talking about additional costs and how those can be seen as a detriment as well. So really, really good, good points here. Good conversation.
Audrey also said, going back to the Adidas and Parley thing that Kyle brought to us earlier, Adidas times Parley training wear is made up of at least 75% upcycled plastic trash. A truck's worth of plastic is dumped in the ocean every minute. Holy cow. That is
cringe. Like if we
could take
so that often occurs in third world countries where they just don't have the facilities to do that and don't have the awareness. I mean, you have to reach. Look, the thing we have to acknowledge as first world residents is that you have to reach a certain level of survival before you can worry about things like this, right? And or you have to get assistance from those who can provide it. And there's a couple of bridges we need to cross there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Sylvia says companies such as Sunoco Products and Agro America are doing some really innovative things when it comes to sustainability. She also says Keon North America, Somerville, which is Somerville, South Carolina, not too far from where she is also a company doing big things. And I would share Nerfod's comment he just made, but it kind of fills up half the screen. He's talking about what IBM's doing when they recently invented a pressure reactor that uses a new recycling method called Volcat. The device has the ability to break down fabric made of a cotton and polyester blend, and the machine will separate the two materials, spinning the natural cotton fibers into a ball and breaking down the polyester into a powder, of course, to be able to use those materials. So cool stuff there from Big Blue.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff.
And a lot of times, not every brand, but a lot of times if you're buying those new cool kind of velvety feeling t-shirts that are out, they're real light and thin. Those are very often made. The polyester in them is very often made from recycled plastic.
Huh, interesting.
And they're super comfortable.
There you go. You got Jammin weighing in. It's been around for a while, but plastic pallet pooling has always been great to me. I don't know much about that. Do you know much about plastic pallet pooling?
Plastic?
No, but I think we're about to learn.
Jammin, you need
we've got him on a show in the near future, and also
in the meantime, Josh weighs in about plastic pallets, and he states plastic pallets are great. Having the customer collect them and send them back to you limits the amount needed to be made and cuts expenses dramatically. So good stuff there while we're talking plastic pallets.
Yeah, it must be the reusable method that they're both talking about. Okay, so question 6: how have you seen the pandemic environment driving innovation? That one's all Scott.
Yeah, this is a good one. So I'll lead off, and I can't wait till everybody comes with their own examples, because if you go looking for it, you're going to see 17,000 examples. But I think the obvious ones, of course, we've talked about it, automakers making ventilators and PPE. That is, I hate to say the word pivot, but man, that is a massive shift in a time of need. So I love how they figured these manufacturing processes out. Of course, companies figuring out how to really make work from home work. Some companies haven't figured that out exactly, but some have really gotten great at it. And two last things, events. I look at leaders like AIAG and even SAP reinvent their ways of engaging and still delivering to communities, digital communities around the world, to helping folks get better and network during this pandemic. And finally, automation. I learned this week Geek Plus has rolled out a couple of disinfecting robots. That's what they focus on. Jasmine and lavender. That is really cool.
Are those the scents that they put into the air also, jasmine and lavender?
Maybe so.
That's an office building I want to work in.
That's right. We'll have to ask them.
Well, the lavender, you might, if it's too much, you might fall asleep.
Is that right? I didn't know that. Oh, more of a Jasmine fan myself, but
I know that John from Uptessa, who is on the Twitter chat right now, we talked a lot about how there's been a lot of collaboration between competitors. And it's really great to see, everybody sort of coming together and doing what they can to really drive innovation during the pandemic. And I think that's a really good point as well, is that we've seen companies who are traditionally competitors coming together.
Yep. John also says L'Oreal, the cosmetics company, is making face shields for frontline workers. So that's you got to figure out how to do that. If you're set up to make, it's that proverbial guns and butter analogy that dates back to World War II, right? Where manufacturers switched over from making consumer goods to fueling the war effort. There's a parallel here for sure.
Yeah, and Audrey just said that she was replying to Josh and Jammin about their pallet answer, and I think she's come up with a new business opportunity, which is there have to be a few opportunities right now to create a business to manage a sharing service for supply chain gear like pallets and such. Definitely something to think about.
Yep, great point.
Scott, I know your wheels are turning on that one.
Well, yeah, we just talked to a company at Modex that does something similar to that, and they're also adding IoT and RFID type devices to those pallets to make sure the things come back, right? Yeah. So
And this is
you know, when I think about innovation in the pandemic, work from home, of course, is a huge one. I think of it in a little bit different perspective, and that is with the advent of work from home, what does this mean? And I had this discussion with Stefan Mao in our Supply Chain Insiders group, but what does it mean for where your home is? You know, there's been this niche sort of digital nomad group sort of traipsing around the world doing work wherever they want. You know, the cost of living in certain areas has gotten to be prohibitive, frankly, in San Francisco and LA and New York are probably the best examples. And now as companies like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn cease to force their people to come into the office, where would you choose to live if you didn't have to live in a $3,000 a month studio apartment? Right. And what could you do with that studio apartment? Even considering that your income will likely change if you pick Indianapolis to live or as your home base or whatever, your standard of living will likely go up by, for instance, getting out of the valley. And people are already flooding out of California because of cost of living and other things. And rents are diving in the valley as people reconsider, you know, where they'll live. So think about the innovation, or at least the transformation that occurs as the population starts to shift around the country.
Did you get these questions ahead of time? So question number 7 is, as we move deeper into 2020, what new approaches to talent acquisition and overall talent management will we see supply chain organizations implement? And this one goes to super trend number 3. I've just posted it. There's a lot to talk about on this one before we get to the next question. But it's true, right? There's a lot of people out there. I just had this conversation with Ian over in the UK on his podcast.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We've gone from 200 resumes to 500 plus resumes for one position. And we really need to challenge what those processes look like, because how are you going to manage that kind of volume? And to your point, if you're going to move out of state, so there's a couple of things here that I just wanted to mention. If you're going to move out of state, you know, Facebook says they're going to pay you for where you live.
Yeah.
And number 3 is, if companies are used to remote workers, that doesn't tie them to the local workforce anymore, and it actually brings it out globally. So, you know, what is that going to do? That's going to, on one hand, enhance the talent pool that we have access to, but on the other hand, there's going to be that much more competition. Anyways, just my thoughts if you guys want to weigh in on that.
I think, yeah. So, I think there's going to continue to be the companies that get it, that understand that navigating through the wide world of talent acquisition in 2020 is not what it was even 5 years ago. And they're going to be more flexible. The offers are going to look different. They're going to really get to know what these candidates care about, what they want to do, how they want to progress through their career, especially if they want to retain this top talent. And then there's going to be the other half, the laggards, frankly, that still think that they control all the leverage, and you're going to see some traditional, old-fashioned negotiating styles, and that's not going to fare well in 2020 and beyond. You've got to really, the leverage is going to be on the side of top talent.
Yeah,
I don't agree.
Okay,
I think actually the leverage is going to be on the side of businesses, and it's going to be a stark realization for some of the candidates who have, and we used to hear these horror stories in the last couple of years of people who would just ghost somebody. They would take a job, take another job, and just not show up for the first job they had accepted. I think HR people have long memories when it comes to that. And, as the great Martin Luther King, and I'm paraphrasing, said, you find out a person's character in times of wealth and in times of difficulty. So I think that in as much as, for all intents and purposes, about 24% of the population or 24% of the workforce is out of work. Remember that the government numbers in the US, at least, underestimate that fairly significantly, because if you're not looking for a job, which many people are not, because they're waiting for COVID to pass, you're not counted among the unemployed. So we are approaching U.S. depression level unemployment levels.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a stark awakening in a lot of ways. My desire and hope is, Scott, exactly what you said, that businesses are smart enough to play the long game and not go back to company towns and old fashioned ways of thinking, but to embrace the workforce and build to build affinity with their workforce for the long term. But I can see that there will be some significant challenges, and it's going to be a shock to the system of some of the people newer to the workforce.
Yeah. So Jammin says borderless talent pool time. So he kind of jumps on to what I was saying about, no longer does it need to be local, but it can be global. I know that Kelly jumped in here as well. Oh, I don't know. Maybe companies could better leverage women who work from home virtually on a flex schedule.
Great point.
Done, Kelly. Yeah, really like that point. Scott?
No, look, it sounds so cliche, but it's so important. And it is flexibility is the name of the game. I think I heard some stat the other day that as folks are initially struggled to work from home, now they love it. And now more folks want to stay home as we move into what's next. So, but second, what goes in conjunction with that is companies have to take off the pigeonhole. They got to get rid of the pigeonholes. To Kelly's point, you got to really open up. I mean, do you need a 4-year degree? Do you need this, and that? Because that's how it's always been that way. Look, let's really open it up and let's hire for the need and give folks an opportunity if they prove themselves to be a great candidate.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, let's make sure that the people that are in the decision-making positions to bring talent on board are the people that are going to be working with them and know exactly what they're looking for, because too much time is spent in the gap between somebody not really understanding the position, but vetting people for that position versus the people that are really looking to bring those people onto their team. And there's a lot that goes into that, right? You need to look at a person holistically from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint. That is not going to work with how we are hiring right now in most cases that I have seen personally.
Yep. Great point.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of this depends on the industry that you're in, because a lot of these concepts that sound so foreign, some of us have been doing literally for 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, having people who work from home, working with people all around the world, having flexible work schedules, all of those things are common in certain industries. Tech is one of them. But now working in an office might be less, I don't know. It will. I think it will change, and it's also going to change real estate, particularly in office buildings. In fact, I actually went to the Atlanta Technology Development Center yesterday, and I heard that 3 or 4 of the companies that are housed there are not coming back.
All right, so our producers are pinging us. We're getting a lot of answers, and we got to get it to them. So I'm not sure where we left off, Sarah, with the responses we're getting on this question here.
We did feature Kelly's up there. Jammin did just answer as well. I can go back there.
We got Josh right here. So Josh from Sonnen weighs in. Difficult times are ahead of us as companies have seen the struggle with creating collaboration with a spread out workforce. Talk about herding cats with a fire hose. How about that for some imagery for you? All right.
And John Miller said, catch up to the way many Silicon Valley companies work. So I am going to get to question 8 because we only have 12 minutes left. And I want to make sure that we get to all these questions because they are really, really good. And we want to hear everybody's answer. So the next one is, we heard a lot about 2020 is going to be the year of AI. What technology will be dominant in 2021? And that goes to the episode that we just released on Let's Talk Supply Chain Super Trend number 4. So what does that look like? What technology I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm talking to a lot of technology companies, and it's great to hear they're really, really busy. People have, taken tech off the shelf, put it front and center in what they're doing in their companies and really making that investment. So it's going to be interesting to see what people are going to say is that highlight in innovation right now.
So, hey, as we're waiting for the tweet answers to come in, I'm going to share a couple from the comments here, and I'm not trying to cut you off there, Sarah. Newfod says, hey, I believe in the people. I believe that life lessons teach us a lot more than a classroom can. I did for sure learn a lot in university, and out of all the lessons, thinking critically was one of the best lessons I learned. But life has taught me so much more that I have translated that into my everyday career tools that he uses. Sylvia talks about, and I'm not sure who made this point earlier, but she says, hey, never have an HR team that doesn't understand your business and processes. Excellent
And that's
stuff.
on management, by the way, right?
Yep.
I mean, the reason that HR doesn't understand your business's processes is because management hasn't communicated that effectively. So
excellent point. And Corinne, one more. I love that. Hey, real quick, before I pass the baton back, Corinne says, hey, just before COVID-19, demand for supply chain professionals exceeded supply by a ratio of 6-1. With the increasing importance of the digital supply chain, a distributed workforce is very viable, but pay for results. And one little commentary there, I've seen that figure as much as 11-1. So a lot of research behind that. So lots of demand.
Yeah. So this is the new question. We heard a lot about 2020. It's going to be the year of AI. Again, though, I want to talk about this because it's the shiny new object, right? Be careful of shiny new objects because there's a lot of back end, work that needs to be done to make sure that AI is the right solution for you and where you're going to put that in your supply chain processes.
Yep.
So, while I think, AI is definitely something that is going to be dominant, it's got to be the right technology for you.
Yep.
I think supply chain. I think you got to go higher than look. AI is technology, but AI is just one of the cogs in the machine. Just like blockchain is a cog in the machine, just like IoT is a cog in the machine. Supply chain technology of all kinds is going to be the technology dominant in 2021. It has to be.
So Kelly says, now that we have had an opportunity to realize how poor our data is, we're going to have to go back and fix foundational data processes before we're anywhere near ready for AI. Yes, Kelly, you and I are on the same track here because that's exactly what I was saying is that the house needs to be in order, whether that's data, who knows what that is, but it definitely needs to be in order before we go for, AI. And, maybe 2020 is the year of me just getting off of pen and paper.
Hey, you know what? 3D printing. Keep your eye 3D printing. It went from 4.4 billion in 2013, projected to be 21 billion in 2021, and I bet that's conservative. So with everyone, with the environment we're in, look for even bigger strides we made with that technology.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And especially with what we're dealing with in just in time and just in case, right? Inventory, 3D printers are going to be used probably a lot more, especially as we go into customizable products that consumers are looking for as well.
Aerospace, healthcare in particular.
Scott, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So Nerfod, you got to come to a lot more of our live streams. You're quite a character, and you're throwing some really cool content and answers out. So he says smart rate technology for pricing and quoting, relationship management technology, that's another acronym maybe for everybody, RMT, and all other blockchain-based AI techs that will help the supply chain become more efficient and reach singularity quicker.
Yeah. And Jammin just says, we will be Slack and Zoom experts. Is short form, meaningful action communication a tech? It absolutely is. I mean, I don't know about you guys, and I think you would probably agree, just some of the stuff that we've had to learn over the last little while with everything going, absolutely virtual and digital.
Yep. Great point.
And John says, clears throat, obsessed like us that are going to improve processes, navigate bad data, and help the bottom line. Well done, John. Well done.
Good stuff. Good stuff, John.
So I think we're going to take it down to one more question. I do have a couple left, but we're going to do one more for the last 5 minutes. And then we can do a wrap up. Greg, how you doing there? Do you need some water, a fan? Are you getting a little,
I'm good.
He's just getting warmed up. He's about to go to hour 2.
Hour 2? Could you imagine this thing going for 2 hours? I mean, we would get a lot of great content. That's for sure. There's a lot of great people out there that have got a lot of great things to say.
Yeah, real quick. That reminds me of Paul Harvey. You know, when I used to listen to him way back when, well, he'd go from page 1 to page 2 to page 3, such a trademark, and just his overall cadence, you know, how he invited his listeners to be a part of, really was a monologue, but one of a kind.
Awesome. Awesome. So question 9 for the last 5 minutes. Let's talk sourcing. What shifts do you see really taking place over the next 12 to 18 months? Is the China +1 approach the most likely? And that has been tweeted. Last question of the day. Well, you know, we talk about globalization. I've spoken to a lot of people. It's here to stay, especially for now. It's going to take some time to transition away from it. Even if we do want to transition away from it, I think that there's a lot of, you know, challenges that we're going to see in local manufacturing. If we do want to nearshore, those need to be taken into account. And I really only think time is going to tell.
Yeah. Excellent perspective. Greg, I know you got, we've talked a lot about this. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we're hearing a lot about reshoring and nearshoring and China +1, +2, +3. China +1 is, yes, it's the most likely. Honestly, China is the most likely.
Yeah.
They're going to stay a major player.
For the next 7 to 10 years. You know, companies didn't move to China instantaneously, and they didn't move to China without a lot of planning, thought, and investment. And unless the conditions in whatever their home production country is, be that the US or European or South American or even Asian and African countries, unless the environment changes significantly, there's no real reason to move back. First of all, Chinese workers, there are 805 million of them, and they work for $10,500 a year. And factory floor workers work for less than that. Mm-hmm. You know, between $2,400 and $5,000 or and $6,000 a year. So it's a big hurdle to get back.
Yeah, so Jamin says, shoring for sure will be huge. Irina Roska also says, this is the year we realize it's needed and we prepare. Most organizations do not have the proper data collection. This is for the last question. Scrubbing and storage to properly implement AI. So yeah, yep. Sorry. That was for the last question. I didn't quite realize that, but no, I think you're right.
Yeah, Nerfod says it would definitely take a long time to come back. They never really should have left in the first place, but that's a podcast topic all on its own. Love that. Jamin responds, Nerfod, love seeing you here, amigo. You always have great insights. Agreed. Corinne, love Paul Harvey. The rest of the story. I'm with you, Corinne. That was my intro into everything else, audio and sports talk. And I mean, Paul was one of a kind. Mr. Harvey was. All right.
So Kathy Robertson says globalization is here to stay, but instead of just in time, there will be just in case. And as a result, there will be some reshoring to help handle that just in case inventory. And then Clay, you can put that back up there. Kelly says we're going to have significantly increase the sophistication of our optimization skills analysis so we can understand all of the implications of each China +1 decision. I think those are both really great points and probably a good point to sort of end off on. I think everybody can continue the conversation here on Twitter, continue to, you know, answer the questions and talk to each other. And
one more comment, because you know this is a hot topic, right? And it comes up, it seems like, on every episode. I don't think either one of you and I know we're not saying there's not going to be any reshoring and nearshoring. But what we are, at least what I'm saying, I think y'all would agree, is it's not going to be nearly to the level, especially in the very, very short term, of what some folks would have you believe. Is that, I mean, that's my position. Is that y'all's position as well?
We're speaking with our hopes and emotions right now, right? Not with practical knowledge. And and while I think we all hope and want reshoring and nearshoring, there are some stark realities that we have to face and overcome. Though I think the willpower is there. Depending on where the election goes, I think the willpower is there to help move manufacturing back.
Yeah. Well, and I think to Kelly's point, we have to be sure. We've got to be sure about where we're going to be doing this. And I think to Jamin's point, you know, the sure shoring is where that sort of lies as well. Audrey Ross, one more before we go. China Plus will continue. It took us 20 years to build it up. It's going to take a year or two to shift that. You know, might be
20 is an underestimation. Yeah. I remember my father sourcing product in China in the 80s. So
Yeah. All right.
Great.
So Sarah, we are bringing the Twitter chat to a close, and then we're going to sign off on the live stream here momentarily. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, I'm just going to thank everybody for participating in the Twitter chat today. They can continue to talk amongst themselves on Twitter about all of the different questions and comments. They can continue to do that. But here for the live stream, I think we're going to be
wrapping up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So really have enjoyed this live stream. I love all the activity and the energy and the input. We're gonna have to do this again real soon. Maybe I might need a few extra monitors and maybe some bots in the office point me in the right direction. But
I don't know about Greg, but you know, I was
but want to thank Sarah Barnes Humphrey with Let's Talk Supply Chain. Be sure to check that out wherever you get your podcast from. And of course, YouTube, you name it. Go to letstalksupplychain.com, I believe, and Ships. Really cool technology company there. Check that out. Sarah, a pleasure as always. And we'll be reconnecting with, don't go anywhere, but we'll be reconnecting with you here momentarily or a little bit.
Yeah. And this Super Trend series has been amazing. It's been fun to come together and collaborate. And, so thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. All right. So to our audience, that's right. To our audience, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for being not being a wallflower. I mean, folks were jumping in off the top rail, top rope, really sharing some great insights. I can't wait to go back and see some of the things that I missed. But thanks so much. We got lots of upcoming events. Go to supplychainradio.com, check that out, including a June 25th webinar on ERP best practices in post-pandemic environment and a July 15th discussion on the racing industry. And we would love to have your thoughts and perspective and insights there, and what's going to be a very frank discussion. All right. So on that note, thanks so much again. supplychainradio.com. Find us and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. On behalf of the entire team here, including Greg White and Clay and Amanda, we wish you nothing but the best ahead. Hey, do good, give forward, and be the change. And we're going to see you next time here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.